This is the Light on Leeds podcast. My name is Hazel Mullisham. I'm your host. This week, Amy Letman remotely connected to speak to me. She is the creative director of Transform. She talks to me about the Transform Festival, which is taking place as we speak. It started in October and it runs all the way through to April. They are experimenting with a different kind of festival approach, which Amy tells me about really eloquently, talking about different kinds of theatre, different kind of people making them, the different spaces that they go in. She's a really great person, and I think you'll really enjoy the conversation that we had. On this episode of the Light on Leeds podcast, I have Amy Letman, who has remotely connected to speak to me. She's the creative director of Transform. Hello, Amy.
Hi, Hazel.
Thank you so very much for joining me. I know you're very, very busy at the minute. Can you tell me what is Transform?
Yeah, sure. So Transform is an arts organisation based in Leeds. The main thing that we do is present an international festival every 2 years, which unfolds across Leeds in some of the city's kind of major venues alongside hidden, undiscovered and unusual spaces and contexts. The festival brings together artists who I guess create live experiences, be that theatre, performing arts, live art, dance, whatever you want to call it really, but it's performance live experiences. Lots of those artists are based in Leeds and the wider north. But increasingly, the festival brings together and celebrates artists from all around the world. So from across Europe, South America, the Middle East, Africa, Asia, and presents extraordinary performance experiences for audiences here. We also year round, so the main thing that we do is deliver the festival. But year round, we see ourselves as an engine room, kind of supporting and catalysing a new wave of performance to be created in the city. So supporting and developing new work with artists from Leeds and across the north, which will then kind of come to fruition within the festivals. And we also develop projects that are specific to the city and are perhaps co-created with local citizens across the city. And for the last few years, we've really placed a strong emphasis on working with young people, so around about 16 to 21, who work with us to think about the kinds of projects that we might create for the festival. So we have a focus on kind of creating performance with young people, but also prioritizing young people as decision makers. I guess at the heart of what we do is this idea of reimagining what performance can look like, but also reimagining what a festival can look like, how we experience a festival, how it's put together, who has agency in what a festival looks like and how it takes place. So in a nutshell, that's sort of what we do, a very strong kind of local and international focus.
That sounds absolutely amazing. And I've seen the trailer that you have on your website for the festival coming up, and it looks really varied and really exciting. Are there any things coming up that you are particularly looking forward to seeing yourself?
Yeah, there's quite a few. I mean, this festival looks and feels really different for us because of the pandemic. We really had to kind of completely rethink our ordinary model and our approach, and we've seen it as a real opportunity actually to kind of rethink what a festival can look like. It's actually been an extended festival, so it's been going on since October, so kind of exhausting. We wanted to sort of ease the pressure of delivering a large scale event within the pandemic and think differently about pace and duration and what we're demanding of artists, but also of our audience. So we kicked off the festival in October, and there's been quite a few things sort of going on already, but we're now, I guess, moving into the final culmination moment this March and April. I'm really looking forward to a show called The History of Korean Western Theatre, which is going to be on at Leeds Playhouse on the 10th and 11th of March. I don't know about you, but I've been just like completely sucking up South Korean film
Yes.
during the
Yes.
pandemic. So there was Squid Game, there was Parasite. There's a new zombie one on Netflix, just like an extraordinary wave of like South Korean culture. And this work is created by a South Korean artist called Jae Koo. It's kind of a documentary theatre show, completely underscored with film. So he's a theatre maker, but also a filmmaker. And the show is personal, it's political, it's kind of questioning why South Korean culture just leans into kind of Western forms. So it's sort of been dominated by Shakespeare and kind of other sort of Western forms. So really looking forward to that show. It'll be the first international show that we've presented since 2019 because of the pandemic. So it's a big deal for us. Towards the end of the extended festival, I'm really looking forward to a show by Amanda Pina. She's an artist from Mexico and Chile, and it's called Frontier, a Border, a Living Monument. We're actually presenting the work on the top floor of the Victoria Gate multi-story car park. So the audience will be seated on the top of the car park, kind of overlooking this extraordinary kind of panoramic view of the city. And it's a really visual dance performance which weaves together kind of hip hop, native dance practices. It's inspired by a dance which is performed at the Mexican-US border, and it's really extraordinary, very kind of experiential. So looking forward to that, and a couple of others as well by kind of local artists and groups. So Jumbi by Jamal Gerald, who is an artist we've been working with for many years now. This is probably his most ambitious work to date. It's inspired by a ritual dance called the Jumbi dance from the island of Montserrat in the Caribbean. That dance has died out over the years for kind of many kind of complex reasons, but Jamal is kind of really playfully investigating what would that dance look like if it existed today, and he's kind of coming at that from a queer perspective and looking at how that dance might exist in a club context. And it's going to be immersive, it's going to feel part party, part performance, part ritual. Really looking forward to that one. And then also there's a bunch of events, parties and conversations kind of around the shows. And I'm particularly looking forward to a soft rapture, which is a club experience that's been created by a Leeds-based collective called Sable Radio. They're trying to reimagine what your traditional club space might look like, kind of bringing the audience into an otherworldly and an atmospheric kind of immersive night, which is going to be taking place at Hope House on Mabgate. And they're putting together a really exciting lineup of performers and DJs kind of locally and internationally as well. So there's loads I'm looking forward to. So there are a few highlights. But if you ask me that
Yeah,
question,
that sounds absolutely fantastic.
yeah, you can't shut me up on it, basically. If you ask me what the
You're the
highlights
perfect person for your role.
are. Yeah.
And can you tell me about some of the other projects that you've been involved in?
Whoa, I mean, there's been a lot because the festival's been going for 10 years now.
Wow.
It started actually at Leeds Playhouse. So I used to work there as an associate producer. And the festival actually started out as a smaller scale annual initiative at the Playhouse, which I kind of oversaw as part of my role there. I left the Playhouse in 2015 with this idea of kind of taking the festival and developing it as an independent venture. but also kind of developing it as an international festival for Leeds. So there's loads of projects. I mean, some of the most memorable for me, a couple from 2019, we brought an incredible group called Colectiva Ocupacial from Brazil to the city, a group of 18 incredible performers who were involved in the high school occupations of Sao Paulo in 2015. So, I mean, I didn't know anything about this at the time, but I was lucky enough to travel to Brazil in 2017 and meet this group who are activists and artists who, at the time that they were at secondary school, were involved in some occupations of their schools, which went on for months in Sao Paulo. Over 200 schools were occupied by students in protest against really restrictive educational cuts, which were being proposed by the government. So this show is about those occupations, that kind of activist initiative, their time living in the school. We brought them over from Brazil. They presented this extraordinary work in an old high school, an old kind of abandoned school hall in Leeds City Centre. They then went off to Manchester and London to present the show as well. So that's definitely like one of the most memorable in terms of the experience itself, but also the time, the years of graft and sweat and blood and tears that went into bringing that group over from Brazil. Most of them had never left Brazil. They didn't have passports. So it was a huge process, logistical process to kind of bring that to life. I mean, there's been loads, really. We've made work outside tower blocks, in warehouses, in car parks, in community centres.
And what do you think is the use of presenting things that you would normally see in a theatre? What do you see as the benefits of this idea of putting on performances in places that you wouldn't normally see them?
Well, theatre can happen anywhere. Nobody ever. The first theatre shows that would have been created would not have happened in high spec theatres. Theatre began as like a ritual that communities would kind of make and present to each other. It's a medium of telling stories. And I think over the years, theatre has become known, like particularly in the West, as a form that can feel kind of exclusive or protected, or that it's for a certain demographic, and that it happens in a certain way. And we just want to bust open that idea, basically, and bring theatre back to being a kind of accessible form. I think that's probably the fundamental core of what we're trying to do. It's about opening up theatre, making it feel more accessible, but also exciting and inclusive, and that it
Yeah.
can happen in that community space down the road or on top of a building. It's just as likely to happen in those spaces as in a theatre. And also, I think this amazing thing about festivals, about encouraging you to see a space differently through fresh eyes, to go to places in the city that you might walk past every day and not think twice about. A festival is the time to discover, to explore. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And do you get feedback from people who perhaps have seen something you've put on that haven't necessarily gone to sort of the more traditional routes of seeing productions?
Yeah, I mean, we do. We get amazing. Sorry, can you hear that, Hazel?
It doesn't matter, it's fine, it's only low level.
Oh, okay, that's great. So that's fine. Sorry. Okay, I'll just go back to answering the question. So yeah, we get really amazing feedback from people after the shows. But it's not just about amazing feedback. I guess it's about making people think differently about something that's happening in the world, or gain a different perspective or insight into a particular conversation or a particular subject. So for me, it's not necessarily about people coming out of the venue and going, wow, that was amazing. Like, that often does happen and that's brilliant. But
Mm-hmm.
it's about it's about starting conversations. It's about seeing the world differently. It's about seeing a city differently. It's about gaining a perspective or an insight, or having access to a story that you might not otherwise have access to. So yeah, brilliant responses are brilliant, but we want to start conversations. I think that's the kind of primary objective.
Yeah, I can really see how I love the idea of the fact that you can just sort of tell stories anywhere and that you take over these spaces and then they take on a different meaning. Like the idea of doing it on top of the car park. That is going to stick in people's memories, despite however brilliant the performance is. Seeing something like that in a space like that is going to stick with you, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it is those moments throughout, the history of our festivals that it's those kinds of experiences that people still talk about. Like, oh my God, that when you took over that car park in Holbeck and, there was a live band in the back of a van. Or, when we took audiences to a warehouse in Armley for this kind of immersive club pop opera performed by 18 kind of Chinese performance artists. Like, it's those memories that stay with people. Our lives have been perhaps relatively monotonous in the last couple of years. For
Hmm.
long stretches of time, we haven't even left our homes. And I
Yeah.
think that's what life's about, right? It's about adventure, it's about different kinds of experiences, it's about breaking away from the everyday. Those are the kinds of moments that are going to stay with you, not the fact that you got up and went to the same workplace every day. You
Yeah.
know, that's what festivals are for, is for transporting you and taking you out of the everyday.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds exactly what we all need. And can you tell me a little bit about? I read a bit about one of your projects that I just thought was absolutely fascinating, and I'm so sorry that I missed it. 12 Last Songs.
Yeah, so 12 Last Songs was a production that we presented back in October, right at the start of our extended festival at Leeds Playhouse. So we presented it on the quarry stage of the Playhouse. And it essentially brought together people from across the city who do all kinds of professions. So we worked with, you know, everyone: plumbers, vicars, teachers, drone pilots, sex workers, um, all kinds of people, doctors. And we invited them to come and do a shift on stage at Leeds Playhouse, to come in and demonstrate the work that they do on a daily basis in front of an audience.
Wow.
Um, and the show was on the quarry stage, so the really epic kind of big stage at the Playhouse. And it took 12 hours. And across those 12 hours, from midday to midnight, you were introduced to a range of people that you might not ordinarily meet. And they presented their work, but they also had a conversation kind of with the performers. Their work was framed in a particular way where you kind of had an insight not only into the work that these people did, but into their lives and their stories. Um, and it was presented together with a company called Quarantine, who are based in Manchester, but present their work kind of all around the world. And this company, I think at the core of what they do is this kind of fascination with meeting people that they wouldn't otherwise meet. And that was really sort of what the show was about. It was about conversations with people that wouldn't ordinarily meet. And it sounds mundane when you sort of describe it, but it was completely captivating, kind of being in that space. And there were sort of some extraordinary moments. We had someone whose job, they work in kind of bouncy castles, and they
Right.
came in and they blew up this huge bouncy castle on stage, like a massive castle. And there was a conversation on stage between a community worker, a politician, and an ex-convict turned artist. And at the end of the conversation, they all kind of slid down the slide of the bouncy castle. So there were just these extraordinary, kind of bizarre and beautiful moments of just different people kind of coming together, really.
And how did the people who were living out their daily life, their work life on stage, how did they feel about being part of it? That must have been a strange experience for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was unusual. The people involved, it was very important to say that we weren't asking them to come and perform. We were asking them to come and work, and
Right.
everybody was paid to come and do what they would do. Um, and yeah, I think we spent about 3 to 4 months leading up to the show, just having conversations with people, going out and about, meeting people, and asking them, are you free on this day to come along and do a shift on stage at Leeds Playhouse? And what's brilliant with all these projects, that involve different people in the making of them, is that we always stay in contact with them. So we get to build these incredible long-lasting relationships. People tend to, come to the festivals again, and yeah, it's sort of building those networks, and making sure that the projects are kind of really rooted and speaking to the city that we live in.
Yeah, definitely. It just sounds so exciting. I'm really gutted that I missed it because I just love that idea that you're going to sit there and see somebody working, and like you said, getting that insight into because people's jobs are fascinating, aren't they? And there are a million jobs that you'd never have thought of, and yeah, I think that's just such a great thing to do.
Yeah, it was really fascinating just getting that insight into the work that people do. Um, yeah, my favorite was the plumber Barry, who, yeah, I mean, just you never are going to hear about how plumbing works, like the intricacies of it, or how a
Yeah,
plumber starts out. But it starts with that conversation, and then it goes into something much broader, like where somebody lives and who their family members are. And yeah, it's the I think it's that question, often when you meet somebody, the first thing you say, you ask them where their name is, where are they from, or what do you do.
yeah.
You don't necessarily, you're not really that interested in the job they do, but you want to find out about them. And it's just finding out someone's profession is just a kind of way into hearing a bit about who they are. So I think that was really what the show was about, who people are, what's at the heart of people.
And how brave of them as well. I know, like you said, being careful about not saying that they were performing, they were actually working, but still, it's working in a very different environment with an audience.
Yeah, it is. But I think the way that quarantine work, and I think the way that Transform likes to work, is about creating welcoming spaces.
Hmm.
So, it wasn't just sort of like, oh, show up on the day and go on.
They will just shove you on stage.
Yeah, there was a process of like meeting people, having conversations with them, like, is it something they're interested in doing? We held a dinner on stage the week before the show, where everybody involved kind of came and met each other and found out more about the company and the project. So I think people were brave, but I think what Quarantine, the company we worked with, managed to do was create a really just welcoming, kind of inclusive and friendly space. But sure, people definitely had nerves
Hmm.
on the day, some more than others.
It just sounds great. Really does. Really, really sort of tickled my imagination. And after the festival is closed, what are you straight away working yourself ready for the next festival? Like what's coming up? Or do you not even have time to think about that at the minute, Amy, because you're so
Yeah,
busy?
no, definitely. It's always all go. So people think, oh, great, you do a festival every 2 years. Like that's you must have loads of nice time in between. What do you do? But it's completely constant. So we're an independent organisation. It's probably just worth saying that we don't receive regular funding. I founded the company back in 2015. It started with me working from home in my pajamas, getting up every day and just writing funding applications and, emailing people, trying to get them to take this idea seriously. We've now got a core team of 6. So, we're a really small team. And the festivals, so much goes into them years in advance of planning, preparation, research, fundraising, finding venues. After this, so this edition has been a bit different because of the pandemic. We had to basically postpone a festival that we'd planned for April 21. And we've moved into this kind of extended model instead. So once that wraps up in April, we've then got a year and a half until the next one. So we're moving to October 2023.
So no break at all, just steaming straight ahead into
It will be a year. It will be a year and a half to go, and it's for the 6 months before the festival. We're very much in kind of hardcore delivery mode. So there'll be a year. We'll straight away go into the planning and the preparation. I mean, as we're delivering the festival at the moment, I'm still writing funding applications for the next one.
Yeah.
So it's pretty all encompassing, but I can't complain because the payoff is amazing in terms of.
Yeah, I bet, and you've done so well to, you took something and ran with it, and I think it's fantastic. Have you always lived in Leeds, Amy?
So no, I've lived here for 10 years. So I grew up in Ipswich, a
Hmm.
small town in the southeast of England, and then I went to university in London and lived some kind of other places as well. um, I got a job at Leeds Playhouse when I was 23, as associate producer. So I had some friends from school who had set up a theatre company in Leeds, and I'd been to visit them here, and I really liked the city. And then this ad came up at the Playhouse, and they passed it on to me. So I came thinking, okay, I'll give that a shot. Maybe be there for a year or 2 years, and then 10 years later, no looking back, really.
Well, that means that you're definitely qualified to answer the 3 questions that I
Okay.
ask every guest. The first one being, what would you say is great about the city of Leeds?
Okay, what would I say is great? I love the size, the scale of Leeds. I have tried living in big cities before. So I tried living in London and I also tried New York as well for a few months.
Wow.
And I think I'm from a small town, and I love cities. I love the energy of cities and having like lots of things to do and like get involved in. But I also really I need a kind of close knit network. And I think the thing I love about Leeds is that, well, the performing arts scene here is extraordinary.
Hmm.
And, there's not just Transform, there's, Clay Centre for Live Art Yorkshire, there's amazing stuff going on at Yorkshire Dance. There's a lot going on. There's loads of independent artists here. I love that small network in performance, but also I love the small kind of community that is fostered in Leeds
Yeah.
across the kind of independent scene. I love running into people on the street. That never happens in London or New York, really. If
No.
you run into someone, you're like, wow, this is crazy. But yeah, on a daily basis in Leeds, you just run into someone that you know. So I really love that. Yeah, it feels friendly and it feels warm and it feels supportive. And I also really love being near the nature as well, being able to kind of immediately get out and sort of be in the countryside.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's a great answer. And what would you say is not so great about the city?
Hmm. So I think with smaller places come politics sometimes,
Yeah.
and that can drag me down a bit.
Okay.
I think particularly as somebody that I just like to make things happen. um yeah,
So you can get sort of frustrated by things outside of your control that hold it up.
yeah, That's exactly it. You said it far more eloquently than I could. The lack of joined upness sometimes in the cultural sector does frustrate me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think something like Leeds 2023, which is coming up, is a really good opportunity to like bring the arts sector and arts community together, um, to kind of galvanize us as a community. There's always this danger of kind of silos existing.
Hmm.
But I think that's probably true of any city.
Yeah.
Um, I think the work I'm really interested in is I guess it's ambitious, it's international. You could describe it as cutting edge, as experimental.
Hmm.
I mean, sometimes I wish there were more of that. And I guess I would love the city to like genuinely embrace innovation.
Yeah.
I think what makes Leeds special is its edge, its independence. Sometimes that can feel like it's under the radar. And I
Yeah.
want that to shine through, and I want that to be what Leeds shouts about. Every city's got a ballet, every city's got an opera company, a regional
Mhm.
theatre. It's cookie cutter, everyone's got it. But what Leeds has is this dynamic edge, this kind of really vibrant independent scene. And I want to see that supported properly,
Yeah.
and I want to see it taken seriously. And the thing I find frustrating is when I feel that it's not getting the recognition that it deserves.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, we'll have to see. As you know, Leeds has committed to leading with culture, and we'll see over the next 3 years if that manifests. And I hope it does, and I hope it does in a way that brings to the surface that really dynamic energy that really needs support, and it really needs to be taken seriously.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if somebody had been a resident of Leeds for a very long time, would you be able to tell them about something that you would consider to be a hidden gem that they might never have heard of?
Yeah. So I'm a big kind of food person. So there's
Yeah.
quite a few. I live in Chapel Town, and there's some amazing places on Roundhay Road. So I would say
Yeah.
just go to Roundhay Road, and there's so many amazing places to eat there. In particular, at the moment, there's a Kurdish bakery on Mabgate. So our organisation is we're based at Mabgate Mills in Leeds, and I'm
Yeah.
sure like all the listeners will know about Mabgate, and there's some amazing kind of creative organisations based there. There is a Kurdish bakery on Mabgate, which is amazing. You have got to try it. Basically, it's called KF Bakery and Takeaway, Kurdish Fresh Bakery, and they make all their own breads. They do the most amazing breakfasts, like the best falafel. So I would say definitely visit. Yeah, definitely visit.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely fantastic and right up my street. I definitely will be visiting.
Right.
It's definitely one we've never had before as a hidden gem.
Yeah, and also I don't know if you had Darvish restaurant on Roundhay Road.
Oh, I've seen it. I've been past it.
Okay, so that's a really like really beautiful restaurant as well. So I would definitely check that out.
Excellent. Those are brilliant suggestions, and I will take both of them up. And what will you be doing with the rest of your day today?
Oh my God. So I'm going to be going downstairs now, checking in with our marketing team who are firing off. They're firing off marketing stuff on all fronts. So
Hmm.
they've been making some video content and some social media content. So I'm going to check in with them and see where they're at. And then the rest of the afternoon is quite quiet for me. I'm going to be focusing on writing our application for regular funding. So there's a deadline at the end of May for regular funding. So I'll be working on that. Not finishing too late because it's a Friday. Going home, having a night in tonight with my partner. We're going to drink some red wine and get a pizza fella takeaway. So that will be my Friday.
Sounds absolutely perfect, and you'll definitely need it because you've got all of this work coming up.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, so I need to keep...
Thank you so very much for coming and talking to me. I will put lots of links in the podcast notes that people can click through and come along and see all of the amazing things that are going on.
Thank you so much, Hazel. It was so great to chat.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed speaking to Amy. She's so enthusiastic about everything that she does. Transform Festival is going to be amazing and is being amazing. I'm definitely going to get myself to some of those performances. As usual, all the information that you need will be in the podcast notes. Please do go along, join in with this transformational, amazing new way of looking at theatre. The feature track this week is Mr. Magnificent, and it was sent to me by Leeds band Ringo and the Wolf. It's a fantastic track. It's very upbeat, and I think that you will enjoy it very much. Again, links in the podcast notes so that you can support local bands. Have a great week, Leeds, and I will speak to you soon.
What's happening in this great city? We'll tell you. Wait a minute.
You Mr. Magnificent.